Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
Welcome to Twins Talk, which is the annual preseason show that we do here on Access to Democracy. If you looked at the numbers on my back, you would think I'm Tory Hunter, but I'm just the host, Alan Miller, and we're graced again, as we have been over a decade, by having Kevin Smith with us, corporate communications, charge of all radio and TV with the Twins, and a surprise guest, Brian Dozier, who just flew in today. And Brian said he's not going to talk much, but he has to catch a 2 o'clock plane back to Fort Myers because they have a game with the Red Sox tonight.
It's going to be awful hard to keep him standing there all week, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So, exciting year for the Twins, really. We have a new manager, we have new coaches, we have a lot of new faces, including in certainly pitching. Bring us up to date.
Well, you're right. It was a very active offseason, as you know, Alan, with the change in the managerial spot. With Ron Gardenhire's 13-year tenure was a great one, and it was time for perhaps a new voice in the clubhouse. And so Paul Molitor was hired to be the next manager for the Twins. Everyone knows who Paul is. Everyone knows his credentials.
Hall of Famer.
Hall of Famer. The list goes on. More than 3,000 hits. So the time was right for Paul. He had been in our organization for a number of years in a number of capacities, working as a roving instructor in the minor leagues. He knows a lot of the young players on the team, and the time was right. Kind of the stars aligned, so to speak, for Paul to be ready for this job from his family point of view, from his mental point of view, and he was ready to take it on. So we're happy to see spring training here almost over and now into the regular season games. He's got a brand new coaching staff, as you discussed, a lot of new players, so a lot of new energy, I think, around our team as we start this 2015 campaign.
And we certainly hope that we'll see an improvement over what has been a tough 4 years for the Twins.
Well, there's no question about that. It's been a tough 4 years, 90-plus losses. That's not acceptable to anyone in our organization. And so it was time for a change. And I think people saw that change on the first day of spring training. I think there was a new focus, maybe a new energy. The guys came in ready to compete for jobs, and I think that's carried itself through the spring season, and now we'll see what happens here as we start the first month of the regular season here in April.
The starting pitching has been very encouraging in spring training, and we didn't get down to Fort Myers this year. We normally do, especially because I wanted to see how Hammond Stadium has changed, and it's changed immeasurably.
Yes, it has.
So I guess we could start by talking about that.
Well, I'll tell you, it was a great partnership with Lee County and the Twins, and we've undergone 2 phases of changes down there at that facility. It's now called the CenturyLink Sports Complex. Last year was completed the new player academy on the minor league side. All sorts of things have been happening there.
I tell everybody to turn off their cell phone.
They must want me to talk to you.
Well, they're not going to do it.
Anybody I know?
I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, so the Player Academy is a brand new facility. There's 150 guys can stay there. There's dorm rooms, there's educational rooms, there are pool areas, there's a 200-seat theater there for large meetings. And so it's the first place our minor leaguers go to start getting the Twins way. We start from the get-go on teaching them about nutrition, how to act. These are the professional leagues now.
It's got to be wonderful for these young players.
There's no question about it. It's a wonderful facility. It's a great place to start your career. Well, take guys like Bert Blyleven over there and Jack Morris who think back to their minor league days, and it's a different stratosphere. Yeah. So we hope that helps us in our minor leagues going forward. And then, of course, now this year, with the renovation of Hammond Stadium itself, a $48 million renovation that we've seen, where widened concourses, more concessions. The boardwalk continues to be a 360-degree walking space where you can navigate the ballpark, kind of like Target Field. So we think
that area where you
still the area of the berm and the grass. And
right.
We think that Hammond Stadium at the Century Link Sports Complex could be one of the top spring training facilities in all the Grapefruit League.
So we have some new faces. The roster has just been really solidified. We're down to the 25 roster players. Let's go around the infield. Plouffe at third base.
Plouffe will be at third base. Coming off a good year last year. Hoping he can repeat that.
Right.
Danny Santana, who will be our shortstop, probably one of the most athletic shortstops that we've had in the organization in an awful long time.
And had a really good spring at the bat.
And had a really good spring. We'll see what happens. Last year he was a rookie. Everyone talks about the sophomore slump. We hope that doesn't happen with Danny, so we'll see about that. Paul is really high on him, and then you've got our friend here, Brian Dozier, who's probably going to get fined.
You had a breakout year last year.
He probably should be someplace else, so he might get a little fine there, but I won't tell Paul he's here. Then, of course, you've got Joe.
Also just signed a
4-year extension, so that's
which
great.
Tells you something about what the Twins think of him.
If you look at his numbers in the past couple of years, he's put up some great numbers. He's developed into becoming quite a leader in the clubhouse. One of our guys from a long time ago, so he's come up through the system. So it's good to have Brian solidified there. And of course,
first base.
Joe Mauer at first base. Now it's not new anymore to him. He hasn't switched positions. This is going to be his spot now for the second season in a row. So he's comfortable. He's healthy. His legs feel good. Everything seems to be good.
And he's got a better mitt than this. I showed you this. This is my high school first baseman's mitt, and I guess we're going to donate it to the archive.
Yeah, that probably wouldn't work too well, perhaps, at this day and age, but that is quite that's from the 40s and 50s, looks like.
Yeah, I graduated 51 from high school, and
so there you go.
This has got to be from 47 or 48.
It's in really good shape.
That's because it never got off the bench.
And then, of course, continuing on, we go on in the outfield. Interesting, in the outfield, of course, we've moved Arcia over to left field, and center field has been kind of an interesting situation all spring, and with looks like Jordan Schaefer and Shane Robinson, a non-roster invitee who made the team, will kind of platoon, so to speak, in center field. And
I had hoped, and I was always an Aaron Hicks fan. I was just hoping that he would get his head together and really put his talent together also, and that's a disappointment, but maybe down in AAA, maybe he'll find it and still come up. He's only about 24 years old, 25 years old.
Right.
And
well, you think about that,
fielder.
we've got everyone talks about Torrey coming back, Torrey Hunter. It was a great story for us and for Twins fans all over Twins territory. He'll be in right field.
People could see the back of this jersey,
yes, that's
48 Hunter.
That's right, and that's an original, because our new jerseys, our new uniforms, no more pinstripes. We're straight white. So
this is from the days when Torrey was with the team.
That's vintage, so that's great. But Torrey Hunter, he was a kid who went up and down too, from the majors and minors, and bounced around for a little while until he'll tell you, until it took him a while to figure it out, and once he did, we all know what happened. So we hope Mr. Hicks, Aaron Hicks, can figure that out and figure things out and join us in the major leagues. It's a long season. You never know what's going to happen.
We know the talent is there.
Right.
It's just getting the talent and the head in one place.
Correct.
And that's difficult for some people.
Yes, it is.
So, but then, of the changes we talked about, long-term contract for Dozier, well-deserved, but the salaries went from $87 million last year to probably the second highest salary per annum that the Twins have had. They had 1 year they had $120 million salary,
Right.
and this year I think it's what, 114
A little over,
or
little
50?
over, well, a little bit lower than that when it's all said and done. But you're right. We took on Torrey for 1 year, and Irvin Santana, the free agent pitcher who pitched lights out in spring training. So we're really excited to see him
He
play.
pitched last night in Boston,
Yeah,
gave up 1 hit in 5 innings.
Yeah, that's
and,
pretty good. And if the rotation, I think, goes as planned, and we have no weather issues in Detroit and Chicago, we might see him as our opening day starter.
Phil
target field.
Hughes, who was always a good pitcher, but just didn't sync with the. He wasn't in sync with the Yankees,
Right.
but he certainly found it last year.
Right, and we're high on him. We hope Ricky Nolasco has a bounce back season. Even at his self-admission, it wasn't a great year for him, and he wants to come out and prove to himself and others that was an anomaly. And he'll
we
be back
always
on
knew
track.
that Kyle Gibson was really, really talented.
Right.
And in fact, we had a great interview with him the year that we had Twins Fest, I think out in Anoka or wherever
Right,
it was.
up in Blaine,
Yeah, we had a long interview with Kyle, and just a nice young man.
Yeah, very good young man. And
It
then of
looks
course,
like he's found himself.
He
as a
has.
pitcher.
He could end up being one of the top pitchers we have if things go well for him. And then now Tommy Malone, the lefty, who will be in the 5th spot. So we've shored up the starting rotation. Scoring runs has not been a problem, as you know. We're in the top of the league in runs scored last year, and no reason for that to not continue.
Yeah, you can't judge by really spring training in that regard because so many faces go in and out.
Right.
Even last night. We can hope that Joe Mauer finds the years that he's had in the past.
Right.
He had a injury-riddled and tough year last year.
Yeah, he did, and but if you look at his numbers in the second half of the season, if the second half of the season wasn't the problem, it was the first half of the season. Once he came back from the injury, the oblique injury, he put up numbers in June, July, August, September that were representative of what he has done, previously in his career. So I don't think anyone's worried about Joe. I know Joe has the confidence of the manager, and if you've got the confidence of the manager, who is a Hall of Famer, that's got to give you confidence going into the season. So, but I'll tell you, Alan, if you look at this month of September, our schedule, we play pretty much everybody in the American League Central. So we're going to get a pretty good idea early of where we stack up and where we stand against the American League Central teams, which all got better in the offseason.
And that's really good.
Right. Let's figure it. As Paul said, let's throw it up out there and see what happens and see where we are.
So how did you get to the position that you now have where you're in charge of really radio, TV, the announcers, Spanish radio, etc.? Give us a little timeline on Kevin Smith.
Well, my background is actually in television production. I graduated from the University of Iowa in 1983 with a degree in communications and theater arts, I guess. That was part of the major, but I had a minor in journalism. So I went into television news broadcasting. Worked in Milwaukee for many years and then worked here in the Twin Cities at WCCO TV with learned a lot of things from the likes of Dave Moore and Don Shelby and Pat Miles and Colleen Needles, and the list goes on and on of really top-notch journalists, television news journalists. So I worked a decade at WCCO TV, and that was a wonderful time in my career. I learned a lot. Then I ended up at Midwest Sports Channel. You'll remember Midwest Sports Channel, MSC, before it became Fox Sports North, and I was the programming director there and executive producer, and worked with the Twins and the Gophers and then the North Stars, and did all the programming and production of the MSC's telecast of those games. And one thing led to the next over the course of years, and my TV production background and my news background and my sports background, and kind of all ended up here with the Twins.
And it's been a good marriage.
It's been a fun time.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the coaching staff that Molitor has put together. I mean, we know him. We know his credentials. We know he kept Joe Vavra, although not as the hitting coach. but he brought on Neil Allen, who was a very innovative pitching coach.
Yes, yeah, he.
And,
you know, it's interesting. It was a good combination of, you know, we retained Joe Vavra, kept Joe. Joe is probably one of the most. His mind for baseball is off the charts. If you asked any player,
that's what the players say, as I've been reading.
if you ask any player, you know, who do we need to keep? They'd all say Joe Vavra. He's got the mental capacity. He's the bench coach now, so he'll be kind of the X's and O's guy. A little bit behind the scenes with Paul. He put together a lot of the practice schedules in spring training, so he's that guy.
My guess would be that Paul is not going to be thrown out of as many games as Gardy was.
He, you know, and now they don't have to be with replay. There's really no need.
That's true.
You know, I don't think you'll see Mr. Molitor get too agitated over things unless he thinks that the umpires are disrespecting his team, his players, or things of that nature. But you won't see much out of Paul. Tom Brunansky stays. Everyone remembers Bruno
Right.
from the World Series days as the hitting coach. So he's back. You mentioned Neil Allen. Got him from Tampa. Very innovative pitching coach. Good guy, high energy guy.
And out in the bullpen, we see a familiar face, a guy who was always a fan favorite.
Yeah, Eddie Guardado, his everyday Eddie, as we called him when he was a player here, ended up being a really fabulous closer for the ball club, and he'll be out there coaching the bullpen. So we've got a lot of kind of the old guard, in a way, in a sense, but a lot of new blood as well. So I think that's a good combination of a coaching staff that will really get these guys energized to give their best on a day-to-day basis.
And I think ticket sales jumped ahead this year.
Yeah, we're doing pretty well with ticket sales. We've got the opener sold out. We'll have probably 39,000 or so sold with a number of comp tickets, which come with opening day because of all the pomp and circumstance that we have in our pregame shows, our pregame show on the field. We're well over 1.2 million sold already for 2015. The number of series throughout the summer are gaining some traction. Season tickets are, you know, we're done a pretty good job of stopping the bleeding, so to speak, after that miraculous year that was 2010 with 25,000 plus full season equivalents, which was off the charts.
Because we had the new stadium, which was a draw in and of itself.
Sure it was. It was brand new. Now we're in our we're open our sixth season at Target Field already.
That's hard to believe. I can remember walking through Target Field in February before it opened and just being awestruck by the planning and what was offered there and what was coming up. And if anything, I think it's gotten better, certainly with the concessions, all sorts of things.
Well, you know, from our ownership group, the Polat family, and you know, our management team, we want to make sure that we keep Target Field up to speed and on the forefront, and always something new. We don't want to rest on our laurels. When Target Field opened, it was, you know, widely heralded as one of the top venues in all of sports, not just baseball. So we need to make sure that we keep that going. This year you'll see some new things as well. That left field area that used to be where that glass box retail store was set, just inside Gate 6, has been completely changed. We're opening up an open air bar, lounge, restaurant area that will be branded with the Barrio brand. So it'll be a modern Latin fare where you can sit there and watch big screen TVs. You can get some fabulous tacos, I might add. I got to throw a plug in for that, and then watch the game right there from left field. So that'll be a new gathering spot for fans. Our technology is good. The Wi-Fi is robust, so it's you know, it's a great spot.
Excuse me, a Spanish-speaking barrio. The Spanish players, and we have quite a few of them who speak Spanish. There's also some sort of a tutor arrangement for them, is there not?
Well, we've got tutors, and you know, these guys, it's funny because in all of our interviews we did with them, or wanted to do with them for our special video projects at twinsbaseball.com, we've got some really cool behind-the-scenes stuff that if fans are interested can jump on the website and take a look at that. But they want to speak English, they want to learn the language, they want to assimilate. But you know what? And they're trying. And so we've had tutors and we've had helpers, so to speak, all the way down to our Dominican Republic training facility to try to help them learn the language as well.
I know that Tony Oliva has done work with them, and of course he works with Spanish radio also.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Alfonso Fernandez, who was our Spanish play-by-play man, this will be his 10th year with us, teamed up with Tony Oliva in the Spanish booth, which is always exciting. Whether you understand what they're saying or not, it's really a fun way to listen to the baseball game, because you know what's going on just based on the energy that comes out of their vocal cords there in the press box.
Now, we moved here in '97. We started with the Twins that year. I had been a lifelong Yankee fan, as I've repeated many times on this show. The Yankees came in, we went to the Metrodome, about 9,000 people there. You could echo, you could sing out and hear the echo across the field. And here's the Yankees, it's like the Cadillac Boys coming in, and we had a bunch of young kids with a payroll of about 19 million. And Sharon and I, and she's been a lifelong Indians fan, just got attached to the team at that moment. Then it looked like we were going to lose the team. I got involved in Minnesotans with Major League Baseball, and it's just kind of progressed from there, so that we feel that we're part of the Twins family too.
Well, you absolutely are, and that's the thing that we don't ever take for granted at the organization, is we really appreciate our fans and the support that has been with this team for so many years, through thick and thin. And there were some thin times. I mean, there were some, in that contraction year, there were some Twins employees who went home after that last game and thought that they didn't have a job the next day. And you go from that moment to this moment, it's been quite an adventure.
A fellow by the name of Terry Ryan was really inspirational during that period, because he could have probably named his ticket any place he wanted to go. He stayed. Loyalty to Carl Pohlad, perhaps, whatever it was. And that inspired everybody else to stay.
Well, I think that gave everybody some confidence that things were going to work out. I mean, who knows what could have happened or would have happened had Terry left, and, people would have thought, well, maybe I need to go too. But, that is so much water over the dam that it's ancient history for most Twins fans now.
And Jim Pohlad has become very involved. Actually had a short interview with, I think, with one of the Pohlads. It might have been young Pohlad who was in marketing.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe, when we were out at Anoka. But they don't make themselves too available for interviews.
They aren't out there too much, are they? They're a great ownership family. They understand what it takes to win, and they want things to be good. And it's funny, they for some reason they get this bad rap about not wanting to spend any money. But Jim has always said, if it's something that Terry and the baseball folks think that we need, and within that's within reason, and go for it. So I think though all the things we've got are in place now. We've got a great ballpark. We've got some good young talent. We've got some established veterans. We've got a minor league system which is really on track and has developed some of the greatest young prospects in the game, in Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano. So things are really looking up. We didn't even mention
some of the people that have yet to really rise their stars in the major leagues.
Yes, things are really looking up, and like I said, the fan base has been there. It's we are very appreciative of the fans throughout Twins territory who have kept with this team, and our hope is that they get rewarded with some really good baseball this summer.
And I saw TC. He looks like he's in good shape for the season.
TC is in good shape. He had a little early wake-up call recently in that he was asked to go to New York to participate in a mascot kind of event on Good Morning America. So there's no question in my mind that TC will be insufferable for the first couple of weeks of the season because of his national television appearance. So if you're out in April at Target Field and TC appears rather aloof or indifferent to you, it's likely because of his national television appearance on Good Morning America.
This is probably one of the few shows, however, which actually interviewed TC.
How did he respond to that?
With shaking the head, yes or no. It was about a 5-minute interview, and
It must have been riveting.
I knew it was over when he tried to swallow my head.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. When he's first to swallow your head, you know it's lights
Yeah,
out for you. Yeah,
it's,
exactly.
But that's another thing. And Twins Community Fund, and I know you were very involved with that. People don't realize how much the Pohlad family have contributed to this city, to Twin Cities, to Minnesota, to the area. I can't just say to Minnesota because it's in the Dakotas as well.
Right.
But the community fund. Tell us a little bit because you ran that. For
Sure,
a while.
I was involved with that for a number of years. And I'll tell you what, I think that if you want to take a snapshot of the community involvement of the organization, it was last year for the All-Star Game. And Major League Baseball always wants to leave behind money for charities and charitable pursuits with dollars raised from the All-Star activities in the town and the city in which they play the game. Well, last year, after all the hullabaloo and hubbub and MLB left town and all the All-Stars went back to their teams, $11 million was left behind in the Twin Cities
Really?
and around Minnesota and Twins territory. 8 some million from the Twins and the Pohlads, and another $3.5 million from MLB for charitable groups there. So the All-Star Game might be a distant memory now for us, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of kids around the upper Midwest who are benefiting from the charitable contributions that were left behind because of
In
that
terms
activity.
of building ball fields, in terms of
Building ball fields,
equipment.
renovating buildings, the Boys and Girls Clubs, Phillips Eye Center with a mobile eye exam unit, all sorts of different things, all sorts of different organizations. Ronald McDonald House, a beneficiary, I should say, of some of those funds too. So it goes without saying, we don't really want to, we don't really pat ourselves on the back too much about that, but it's one of the things that really makes every person who works in the Twins proud to work there, not just because of the wins and losses or the smiles we put on families' faces, but really the help that we can do in the community.
And our half hour is just about gone. We've been talking with Kevin Smith, who was good enough to come down here, particularly right before the season opens this year, a very exciting time, a time of anticipation, a time, as I said, of excitement, and we're looking toward a really, really interesting and fun summer, fall Minnesota Twins. Kevin, thank you so much.
Thanks, Alan. I appreciate being here.